Today is an exciting day for me. I am finally modifying this bad boy, adding a little extra beef to it, and we're doing it with these. I've wanted side clamps for this press for quite a while now. The Riley 300 is awesome in a whole lot of ways, but the one thing that it was definitely lacking for me was having side clamps on it. For most people out there, having side clamps isn't entirely all that necessary. The front clamp is more than enough for them, but if you're printing on a professional level such as I am, and also a crazy asshole about detail like I am, then having side clamps is definitely a crucial piece to that puzzle. And let me explain why. After you've been printing for a while and your level of skill keeps going up and up and up, the level of difficulty in your prints is also gonna go up with it. So you're gonna be able to pull off way crazier stuff than you ever thought possible in the beginning. Prints like simulated process, 4-color process, prints that require butt registration, things that have super high levels of detail that also are gonna require a super high level of precision. We're talking zero tolerance registration, because there is stuff out there that has that level of fine detail where you're not going to be able to choke the underbase or add a trap to something or whatever. You're going to need that dead-on registration, or else the whole print basically falls apart. So when it comes to getting that level of tight registration and holding it for a long print run, you have to basically eliminate any possible factor of movement that you can out of the equation. And while most screen printing presses already do a very good job of eliminating a lot of that movement, as this one does, there is one factor of movement that anything with a forward clamp does not eliminate, and that is the flex in the screen frame. The best possible scenario that you can have out of your screen is just the mesh pushing down out of the frame and making the print and lifting back up, and that's it. And that's why you see with autos, the screen frame is supported on each side of the frame, and that's exactly how they work. But with a forward clamp setup, you're only supporting the front half, so with the back half, you've got all this leverage on this thin walled aluminum tubing, and it flexes really easy. If you look at just the weight of my arm going on it, we're flexing this thing like a whole quarter of an inch. Right now I have it set up pretty exaggerated so that you can really see the flex in it, but it's still enough that it's gonna throw that registration around a little bit here and there. And why that flex plays such a big part in your registration is because your tilt and off contact on the screen is going to be different and inconsistent from the front side of it to the back side of it. Plus, with this thin-walled aluminum naturally having a lot of flex, it can also, you know, kind of tilt, twist side to side, and it can shimmy side to side. And if you want to get super technical with it, which I love this kind of shit, anyone who's ever taken a science class before knows that as metal heats up, it expands and becomes more malleable. Well, if you have a shop that the temperature rises throughout the day, like starts off cold and ends off very hot, like my little space here does, that frame is gonna flex entirely different at the end of the day than it did at the start, and that's gonna affect your registration as well. Now we're talking maybe thousandths of an inch here, like something the human eye could literally never even pick up, but this is just the kind of stuff that goes through my head, man. I come from a background of being a pro motorcycle rider and a mechanic and all that, so in that industry, engineering and precision is key. Like, people get hurt, people die if it's not. So I think a little bit different than screen printers do, and that's the kind of stuff that I go nuts for. I want that level of precision when I'm making shirts, and I'm also kind of fucking crazy, so there's that too. Well, when I started noticing this dilemma, because I am doing much more technical prints around here on a regular basis, I really started kicking myself in the ass wishing I had a press that had side clamps on it. Then I noticed the newest Riley Hopkins press, which is the Riley 350, I believe it is. It comes stock with side clamps on it, and the closer I looked at it, the more I thought that these will probably bolt straight up onto mine with literally no modifications. So I reached out to Ryonet, and my suspicions were absolutely correct, and they fired out a set of side clamps for every print head on this press. So we're gonna be sticking those on here today, and while we're at it, I'm gonna go through this whole press, literally every single nut and bolt, give the whole thing a tune-up, make sure every point of precision is adjusted correctly and evenly and perfectly, and really just dial this thing in so perfect and make it tighter than a dolphin's butthole. Let's get to work. Well, there's no turning back now. This is actually super straightforward and super easy until we get into the final adjustment stuff. So in order to get the side clamps on, we gotta swap out the off contact brackets. These are extended versions because the front bar for the side clamps is really long. So if we were using those same exact brackets on here, from head to head, they would smash into each other. So gotta use extended ones, bring them out. And it also comes with a longer tilt adjustment rod because obviously it's coming out farther. We need that. So we'll get these brackets on, get this thing in, and then we'll be able to get the front bar on and start doing some adjustments. Alright, so minor snag. Nothing that's going to stop me from anything, but these kind of hit each other. I guess the measurements were just a little bit off to fitting this on the 8-color press. I even removed the rubber beauty caps on this side too, and I mean, look at this. That clearance is about as thin as my patience. It's not a big deal. I'm just going to remove those caps, obviously, and I'm going to pull my my grinder in here. I'm just going to shave off a little bit of material on the corners just to give me some better clearance. Like, this does clear, but we're talking like one little vagina hair, and that's it. So I'm just going to shave those corners off, give myself some nice clearance, and move along. All right. That fixes that problem. So all we have left to do on these things is to level them all off and tighten stuff down. These two bolts right here are what controls the screen actually being level. It's kind of like a permanent off contact setting. So once it's set up, you pretty much don't have to touch it ever again unless something gets thrown way out of whack. And the way I've seen a lot of people level these things is they'll stick like a board or a piece of plywood in the screen clamps and then flatten it down onto the pallet and tighten it up that way. But wood is pretty much never straight. And I think that's what was done with this thing from manufacturing, because I actually checked how level the clamps were to the pallets before I took this thing apart. And you can see one side is perfectly flush, and then you go to the other side and there's like 2 millimeters difference. So it was kind of a little bit off. So whatever they were using to level these things off with is obviously a little bit warped. So what we're gonna do is actually just use the press itself to level it. We're gonna pull off a pallet, stick it in there sideways, and then put the pallets face to face, because these pallets are aluminum and they're machined perfectly smooth. It does have the rubber on there, but that's not going to make much of a difference. We should be bang on perfectly level to the pallet by doing it this way, so let's give it a shot. Actually, you know what? Just for fun, let's really check it. You know, measuring's getting serious when the caliper comes out. Oh, yeah. Doesn't get any more perfect than that. I actually finished all the rest of them off camera because I really wanted to pay attention to that, because there's some pretty crucial stuff going on there. But man, that palette idea worked really good. Like, it gets you really, really, really close. In fact, most people would probably just use that and go with it, but because I am what I am, I brought out the caliper for every single print head and dialed everything in down to 1/10 of a millimeter off the same pallet. So these things are dialed. I should also mention, just in case any of you do this, before I started, I set my off contact adjustment and my tilt adjustment identically on every single print head, because that would throw it off a little bit. But yeah, man, this is probably the most dialed in this press has ever been before. So oh, I'm getting excited. Plus, it looks so much cooler now. So I'm just gonna do a couple finishing touches to make sure everything is perfect. I know that these little factory set off contact stops, I know for a fact one of them is like 2 millimeters off of the rest of them. So I'm gonna make sure every single one of those is set perfectly identical. And then I'm actually gonna bust out the torque wrench on this thing, which people who build screen printing equipment probably don't even have one in their shop. And I'm gonna make sure every single nut and bolt that's holding a moving part, like all the stuff that has to do with the tilt and the micros and stuff, I'm gonna make sure all of those are evenly matched up across every single print head. It's not gonna make much of a difference in terms of the precision of the press. Like, I mean, it will, but it's gonna make operating it just a lot more satisfying when every single adjustment that you have to use from print head to print head, they're all gonna feel the same. Moment of truth. Oh yeah. It's still got some flex to it, but I can see that that's coming through the entire print head, like all the way from the off contact knob. That's definitely not the screen frame flexing anymore. So maybe there's something I can remedy with that, but still, this is like 10 times better than it used to be. And I mean, look at this thing. It looks so much more badass now. I think that's what I'm probably the most excited about, to be honest with you. Don't get me wrong, I am super happy that I'm gonna have way tighter registration for longer print runs, but I mean, this thing looks fucking serious now. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about it, because you've been looking at this press probably just as long as I have. But yeah, this is another one of those little pieces to the puzzle that's gonna slightly elevate my print game a little bit more, and that's really what it's all about for me. I wanna just keep progressing and getting better and better and better, and hopefully one day become one of the best, which is something that a few years ago I never would have guessed I would say, but now I'm obsessed. So that's gonna wrap this one up. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you check the links in the description because there's some cool shit down there and you should probably check it out. We'll see you again in the next one.